One serene morning, the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, its canopy sheltering him from the rays of the sun. The disciples gathered around him, their eyes filled with reverence and eagerness to absorb his wisdom and guidance. The Buddha began with a calming tone. Each of you carries storms within, unspoken fears and deep wells of unresolved pain. He paused, his eyes sweeping the circle of disciples, sensing their need for clarity and purpose in their tumultuous lives. In Magadha, he continued, there once lived a farmer who devoted himself tirelessly to cultivating his fields and crops. The farmer's days were spent beneath the harsh sun, his hands worn from years of planting, tending, and harvesting. One season, the skies darkened without warning. A storm descended, sweeping away his hopes alongside his carefully nurtured harvests. The grief struck him harder than the winds, and he sought me out in despair, aching for answers to his suffering. The Buddha's words resonated deeply, their quiet cadence drawing his disciples closer, their hearts attuned to his every phrase. The disciples listened as the Buddha recounted the farmer's anguished plea. Why does life punish those who labor in earnest? With a serene expression, the Buddha replied to the farmer, it is not life, but attachment that magnifies your anguish. Your crops have perished, yet the storm rages on in your mind, far fiercer than the winds that swept the fields. Reflect upon impermanence. All things, from crops to existence itself, are destined to fade and dissolve into their origins. The Buddha held their gaze, his message tender yet unyielding. Attachment is the root cause of suffering. Let it go, he continued. By embracing impermanence, one can rise above devastation and retain serenity, undisturbed by external circumstances. The disciples felt the weight of his words, as though they had glimpsed an ancient truth written across time itself. One disciple, hesitant yet curious, asked, but how do we release attachment when our hearts cling to what we cherish deeply? The Buddha raised his hand, palm open, and spoke, imagine holding sand tightly. It slips away despite your effort to contain it. The boy frowned in confusion, and Buddha elaborated, like the mirage in the desert, it promises water but delivers none. He turned toward the villagers, their faces etched with anticipation, seeking the wisdom hidden within his parables. Each of you has encountered your own storms, and each storm carries its lesson. The loss is not in vain. The disciples pondered his guidance, their thoughts churning like rivers carving through jagged landscapes on journeys to unknown horizons. Another disciple spoke, Master, if storms within are inevitable, how do we prepare ourselves to endure their inevitable arrival? The Buddha smiled softly. Preparation begins with mindfulness. Observe your emotions without judgment, as one watches clouds shift across the skies. Mindfulness, he explained, is the practice of remaining grounded. Neither storm nor sunshine should sway your inner stillness. The disciples felt the depth of his teaching sink into their hearts, as if a seed had been planted within their spirits. Emotional resilience is not built in moments of ease. It is forged through challenges, hardships, and acceptance of impermanence, Buddha declared. The disciples absorbed his words. The sound of rustling leaves echoing the quiet contemplations filling the air around them. You cannot prevent storms, but you can learn to weather them, adapting with grace rather than resisting their arrival, Buddha said. He added, resistance amplifies suffering. Surrender to the flow of life, and resilience will rise naturally from within your being. The disciples nodded, each silently reflecting upon the storms they had endured and the lessons embedded within their personal struggles. The Buddha's gaze turned to the horizon, where the earth met the sky in an endless embrace of change and movement. Look to nature, he advised, for the lessons of impermanence and resilience are written in its constant cycle of renewal. The disciples remained seated, their minds exploring the profound connections between their own turmoil and the teachings shared by their master. A storm destroys only what cannot adapt. The stronger the roots, the harder it is to uproot, the Buddha explained patiently. Resilience is not about avoiding hardship. It is about standing firm, like a tree that bends gracefully in fierce winds. The disciples closed their eyes, their thoughts converging on the image of trees weathering storms while drawing strength from the earth below. The Buddha spoke again. Consider the lotus flower. Though rooted in mud, it rises above, untouched by the soil that nourishes it. True resilience lies in remaining unsullied by suffering while drawing wisdom from its depths. Just as the lotus draws strength from mud, the disciples opened their eyes, their hearts ignited with the light of understanding. Though their questions remain vast and unanswered, continue reflecting upon impermanence, mindfulness, and surrender. The answers will emerge as you deepen your connection with life's endless cycles, Buddha advised. The gentle breeze carried his voice across the grove, leaving each disciple pondering his profound teachings as the day turned to dusk. The Buddha rose from his seat beneath the Bodhi tree, his presence radiating calm, his message resonating in their hearts. The disciples followed him in silence, their footsteps echoing the wisdom etched into the earth by countless seekers before them. That day, as the sun set behind the hills, the seeds of resilience were planted deep within each disciple's soul. Another day, another gathering beneath the shade of the Bodhi tree. The disciples assembled to hear the Buddha's teachings unfold. The morning air carried the faint scent of blossoms, and the rustling leaves whispered promises of wisdom amidst their gentle sway. The Buddha gazed upon his disciples with the serenity of one untouched by turmoil, his presence embodying stillness and grace. He began, "Many seek peace in the external world, forgetting that true peace resides within, immune to external turbulence." His words settled upon the disciples like dew upon grass, each syllable soaking into the fertile ground of their hearts. Once, he said, there was a young monk named Sundara, troubled by the harsh judgments cast upon him by others. Sundara's days were overshadowed by criticism, his spirit weighed down by the constant scrutiny and disapproval of his companions. Desperate to escape the pain, he sought the Buddha, hoping to learn the secret to finding peace amidst judgment. Sundara approached me one evening and asked, "Master, how can one remain unshaken by the cruel words of others?" The Buddha's gaze softened, and he replied, "Peace is found not in silencing others, but in silencing the noise within oneself. Criticism," he explained, "is like the wind. It cannot uproot a tree whose roots are deeply anchored in the earth. Just as the wind moves the leaves but cannot touch the tree's core, so too can words leave the inner self untouched." The Buddha retrieved a smooth rock from the ground and handed it to Sundara, its weight resting heavily in his palm. "Throw this rock into the river," the Buddha instructed, "and observe its movement as it interacts with the flowing waters." Sundara complied, casting the rock into the river, where it sank to the bottom, unaffected by the currents above. The Buddha explained, "Be like this rock, grounded and unyielding. It does not rise and fall with the waves of opinion. If your sense of self relies on the approval or disapproval of others, it will forever remain at their mercy." The disciples nodded in understanding, each reflecting upon their own experiences with judgment and the weight of external opinions. The Buddha continued, "To practice resilience is to anchor oneself in truth, untethered to the fleeting nature of human praise or blame. Resilience," he emphasized, "is not built upon the absence of criticism, but upon the choice to rise above its influence." The sunlight filtering through the leaves illuminated the Buddha's visage, and his words carried the promise of freedom and clarity. "Consider the sky," he added, "which remains vast and infinite. despite clouds that momentarily pass and obscure its brilliance. Just as the sky does not shrink in the presence of clouds, so too should your spirit remain expansive and free. Another disciple spoke, "Master, how can we cultivate such resilience when our hearts are often swayed by the judgments of others?" The Buddha answered, "Resilience is cultivated through mindfulness and self-awareness, knowing that the self exists independent of external perceptions. Observe your reactions as a detached witness, for true growth lies in understanding your emotions without becoming entangled in them." The disciples pondered his words, the silence between them filled with the rhythm of wisdom slowly unfolding. "The world is a mirror," the Buddha explained, "and others' judgments often reflect their own fears and insecurities, not your true nature. When you accept that their criticism is not a measure of your worth, you free yourself from its burden," he concluded. Sundara practiced the teachings diligently, and over time, he discovered that the judgments of others no longer disturbed his peace. The Buddha turned to his disciples, his expression embodying the calm that his words sought to impart. "Each of you holds the power to anchor yourself in truth and rise above the tides of approval and disapproval. Remember, resilience is born not of denial, but of acceptance and unwavering connection to your inner truth," he declared. The disciples bowed, their hearts swelling with gratitude as they absorbed the teachings bestowed upon them in the sacred grove. The Buddha's voice resonated in the air, a gentle yet profound melody woven with the threads of timeless wisdom. "Do not wait for the judgments to cease. Embrace them as opportunities to strengthen your roots and deepen your self-awareness. For within the storms of criticism lies the chance to discover the unwavering strength that resides within your spirit," he said. The disciples silently reflected on their journeys, each finding traces of Sundara's story within their own struggles and triumphs. "Resilience," the Buddha concluded, "is the art of remaining grounded even as the winds of external opinions seek to sway you." The grove fell quiet, the disciples immersed in contemplation as the Buddha's teachings etched themselves into their hearts. As the day waned, Sundara emerged as a living embodiment of the Buddha's guidance, his presence an unshakable rock amidst currents. The disciples followed him in silence, the lessons of resilience rippling through their spirits as the world turned once more. Each disciple carried the seeds of resilience within, nurtured by the Buddha's words and their own yearning for unyielding peace. The sun dipped below the horizon, the grove enveloped in a quiet serenity, as the teachings lingered in the whispers of leaves. The story of Sundara and the unyielding rock became a timeless reminder of strength, endurance, and the power of inner truth. Another day, another gathering awaited, and the teachings of resilience continued their journey through the hearts of devoted disciples. Another day, another gathering beneath the Bodhi tree. The Buddha's presence radiated peace, drawing disciples eager for transformative wisdom. The air hummed with anticipation, the rustling leaves accompanying the soft melodies of nature's eternal, harmonious song of existence. The Buddha began, "Life often brings us face to face with suffering, yet within it lies the seed of profound transformation." He paused, his gaze sweeping the group, his eyes filled with compassion for their unspoken questions and unshared burdens. "Near a still pond," he continued, "grew a lotus of extraordinary beauty, its petals immaculate despite emerging from the mud. A seeker once approached me and inquired, 'Master, how does the lotus blossom so pure amidst the murky waters below?' The Buddha's voice was serene, his words entering the disciples' minds like ripples spreading over the surface of a calm lake. I replied, 'The lotus is nourished by the mud, not stained by it, rising beyond the depths to meet the light.'" He explained further, "Suffering, like mud, is not your enemy, it contains the nutrients for growth. fostering resilience and enlightenment. The disciples sat silently, envisioning the lotus and reflecting upon the trials they had faced on their individual spiritual paths. One day, the Buddha said, "A young woman named Kalyani came to me, her heart burdened by profound sorrow and loss. She had lost her family to illness, and the weight of her grief threatened to consume her entirely," he recounted gently. Kalyani asked me through her tears, "Master, why must I endure such suffering? And how can I possibly find peace?" I replied, "Peace is not found by avoiding suffering, but by transforming it into wisdom, compassion, and understanding." The Buddha's voice softened as he shared. I led her to a pond and pointed to the lotus gently swaying above. "This lotus," I told her, "emerges untainted from the mud, finding purity through its unwavering connection to the light. You too must find your inner light, for within it lies the power to rise above pain and adversity." Kalyani listened intently, her tears mixing with the newfound hope kindling in the depths of her heart. The Buddha turned to his disciples, their faces reflecting both the weight of his words and the light of understanding. "Resilience," he said, "is the ability to embrace suffering as a teacher, allowing it to guide you toward greater awareness." One disciple asked, "Master, how do we draw strength from suffering when it feels unbearable, like an endless and heavy burden?" The Buddha replied, "Through mindfulness and compassion, we learn to sit with pain, neither rejecting it nor succumbing to its grasp. Imagine the lotus," he continued, "its roots buried in the mud, yet it seeks the sun, drawing energy from both. To transcend suffering is not to escape it, but to understand its nature and integrate its lessons into our being." The disciples reflected upon their own struggles, each finding parallels to the lotus rising against all odds from its muddy roots. Another disciple asked, "Master, how can compassion aid us in overcoming suffering, and in nurturing resilience amidst life's challenges?" The Buddha's expression softened further, and he said, "Compassion opens the heart, connecting us to the shared suffering of all beings. In helping others, we find purpose amidst our pain and transform our wounds into channels of healing for the world." He explained, Kalyani, the Buddha recounted, began to practice compassion, offering aid to others who faced loss and hardship similar to her own. In helping others, he said, she discovered strength within herself she had never known. Her grief transmuted into profound understanding. The disciples absorbed his teaching, their hearts stirred by the transformative power of compassion and its role in cultivating resilience. The Buddha continued, "Suffering has the power to connect us, to remind us of our shared humanity and interconnectedness with all life. Like the roots of the lotus that nourish its growth, suffering can deepen our empathy and strengthen our bonds with others." The disciples closed their eyes, visualizing the interconnected web of existence, the shared struggles that bound them to all beings. The Buddha's voice carried on the breeze, "Do not fear the mud of life, for from it springs beauty, strength, and enlightenment." The disciples felt a profound stillness settle over them, as if the entire grove resonated with the truth of his words. "Each of you is a lotus," the Buddha declared, "rising from the depths of pain to blossom in radiant understanding." He added, "Do not turn away from suffering, for it is through facing it with courage that you awaken to your potential." The disciples opened their eyes, their gazes meeting the Buddha's, their hearts alight with a newfound sense of purpose and resolve. The sunlight cast a golden glow over the grove, illuminating the space as though the universe itself blessed the teaching. The Buddha concluded, "Remember the lotus, and let its journey remind you of your own strength and capacity to rise." He rose, his presence a serene beacon of resilience, compassion, and wisdom as his disciples bowed in gratitude and reverence. As they departed, The teachings lingered like the soft fragrance of blossoms, infusing their spirits with courage for the journey ahead. The image of the lotus remained in their minds, a symbol of hope and transformation etched into the fabric of their souls. Another day, another gathering awaited, and the Buddha's teachings would continue to illuminate the path to enlightenment and resilience. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.